I thought I was eating healthy until one nut nearly gave me a stroke. A senior's story about Brazil nuts, blood thinners, and the shock of hidden health risks. They say growing old is about learning to live with surprises. Sometimes those surprises are sweet, like the way my granddaughter lights up when I bake banana bread. And sometimes they're scary, like the day I found out a handful of nuts I'd been eating for my health were quietly pushing me toward a stroke. My name is Eleanor Adams, and I'm 72 years old. I've lived in Kansas City my whole life, taught elementary school for 30 years, and raised two beautiful kids. I walk every morning, take my medications on time, and eat what I thought was a fairly decent diet. So when my doctor told me last year that my blood pressure had crept up and I had to start warfarin to manage a heart rhythm issue, I took it seriously. I started reading labels. I swapped processed snacks for natural ones. I started eating more nuts, especially Brazil nuts, which I heard were amazing for the brain and thyroid. I mean, they're just nuts, right? The wellness advice that backfired. I remember the YouTube video that convinced me. A man in a white coat, maybe a doctor, maybe just someone who looked like one, said Brazil nuts were a superfood because of their selenium content. He said they helped with thyroid support, brain fog, and even aging. That was all I needed to hear. I bought a bag at my local health food store and began eating 4 Brazil nuts every evening, like clockwork. They were rich, almost buttery, and felt indulgent in a healthy kind of way. But within 3 weeks, something started to feel off. I began having these odd headaches, not migraines, but a dull pressure, usually in the mornings. I was more tired than usual. I felt slightly dizzy sometimes when I stood up. Still, I brushed it off. I'm just getting older, I told myself. The morning, everything changed. It was a Friday in early spring when it happened. I remember because the daffodils had just bloomed outside my kitchen window. I'd finished my usual breakfast, Greek yogurt, a banana, and yes, 4 Brazil nuts, and sat down to read the paper. Suddenly, I felt a strange flutter in my chest. My vision blurred slightly. And then came the headache. Not dull this time, but sharp, sudden. I stood up and nearly collapsed. My daughter drove me to the emergency room. After a CT scan and blood tests, the doctor came in with a face I didn't like one bit. "Mrs. Adams," he said, "you've had a small hemorrhagic stroke." I was stunned. "But I've been eating healthy," I said. "I walk, I drink water, I take my pills." Then he asked me something that still gives me chills. "Are you eating any foods that could interfere with your warfarin?" I paused, then answered honestly, "Just Brazil nuts?" His eyebrows rose. The shocking truth. As it turns out, Brazil nuts are one of the richest sources of selenium in the world. Just one nut can contain 95 micrograms or more, almost double the daily recommended amount. Eating 4 Brazil nuts a day like I was, that's 400 micrograms, enough to cause selenium toxicity in some people. And for someone like me, taking blood thinners, the combination was dangerous. Too much selenium can increase blood pressure, affect clotting, and make blood thinner drugs work too well, meaning your blood becomes too thin. Just one sudden spike in pressure, boom, bleeding in the brain. I couldn't believe it. A food that's sold in health aisles, recommended on wellness podcasts, a snack I thought was helping me, was hurting me. What recovery taught me? Thankfully, my stroke was mild. No permanent brain damage, no paralysis. I spent 4 days in the hospital and several weeks in physical therapy. But the emotional impact? That ran deeper. I felt betrayed, not just by the nut, but by the overwhelming flood of half-truths out there about superfoods and miracle nutrients. I started digging into research. Turns out there are dozens of case reports like mine. Elderly patients, especially those on anticoagulants like warfarin who developed bleeding issues after eating too many Brazil nuts. But most of these stories never make it into the headlines. Why? Because it's a nuance no one wants to talk about. Even healthy foods can hurt you. if you eat them the wrong way or at the wrong time in your life. What I eat now. These days I still enjoy nuts, but I'm more selective and smarter about it. I stick to walnuts for omega-3s, pistachios, low sodium, high potassium, and almonds for vitamin E and brain health. I also limit my portions, just a small handful once a day. I read studies from reputable journals now, not just internet influencers. And Brazil nuts? I still have one, maybe once a month, like a treat. I respect it now, like you would a powerful medicine, because that's what it is. Powerful. What I wish every senior knew. If you're over 60, especially if you're on blood pressure meds or blood thinners like I am, please talk to your doctor before loading up on any new supplement or food. Even something as innocent as a nut can shift your body's balance overnight. Here's what I wish someone had told me. Brazil nuts are potent. More isn't better. One keeper you take medications that affect blood clotting, be cautious with selenium-rich foods. Headaches, dizziness, vision changes, don't ignore them. Most of all, don't be afraid to ask questions, even if the advice comes from a doctor online. Final thoughts. I'm sharing this story not to scare anyone, but to remind you that health is about context. What worked for you in your 30s or 40s may not serve you in your 70s. Your medications matter. Your metabolism changes, and your margin for error becomes smaller. But you don't need to be afraid. Just be informed, be curious, be careful. That's how we live better, not just longer. So the next time you reach for a Brazil nut, remember me and ask yourself, is this helping me or just something I haven't questioned yet? If my story helped you, or someone you love, please pass it along. Sometimes the smallest change can prevent the biggest danger.